environmental sustainability. And look, I just thought it was important to ensure that candidates for office, municipal office, have the chance to share their thoughts on the many dimensions of environment as laid out, as we've discussed here. So in July this year, I booked this hall, the Creekside Hall, through the Canmore Seniors Association. They were kind enough to provide it for free for all of us, and invited some folk to put our collective minds together and come up with some questions on the environment. And we've at candidatequestions.me, we've gotten like 19 questions. These folks have all seen these questions. You have too, if you've had a chance to go visit that website, or you can go there now if you want. And so what I wanted to do is just quickly tell you how this is going to go. So we kind of, in somebody's living room, we sort of figured out a process that might work. So here's hoping. Here's the rough plan. So introductory comments by all candidates, just 2 minutes each. And I want to introduce these guys to you. I'll get to that in a sec. So introductory comments. At that time, candidates, I'll just invite you to stand. There's a microphone in the back row. There's a microphone in the front row. Jeff Ma back there is our sound guy. Thanks, Jeff. And he will let you talk for 2 minutes. Ken Blackwood, just wave your hand there. Ken has, you will learn to fear and respect Ken. He brought his alarm clock. It's quite a large one. And that will be the timer. And you know, really, I'm going to apologize for any rapidity with which I try and move us along. In my view, part of the magic of this evening is you asking these guys questions to determine if you want them to be your counselor or not. And if we do our job right, we'll have at least half an hour for a microphone in the central aisle here, and for you to ask your questions. So, following the candidates, 2 minutes of glory. Then I have a hat. It has each of the questions that we've already asked. They'll be invited to read the question, and then they have a minute to give the answer to that question. They may have already. We'll see. I guess we'll see if they've read the question and given it some thought already. But it's a way of just talking about some of the issues that we think of as we think about stewardship of the environment in this valley. After that, we'll have and this is, we haven't tried this before, haven't a clue if it'll work or not, but it's the notion of a stand-up, sit-down. I'll make a statement. If these folks agree with the statement, they'll stand up. There will be this moment of silence while Jeff Ma takes a photograph for posterity and publication. We don't mess around, do we, Jeff? And for you guys to just kind of wrap your heads around who's standing, who's sitting, and about the statement, we'll do that. I think I've got 8 stand-up, sit-down questions. These guys have not seen that. Nobody has. Jeff has. And then all candidates, because that's a hard thing, and I get it. It's a hard ask. And just as an escape valve, so your heads don't explode, quite frankly, you get 30 seconds to explain why you stood or remained seating for any particular question. That's just your time to say, look, here's what I meant, or just to kind of, and so that's just an option for you. Following that, questions and answer sessions from the audience. And I'll give you some prompting about that, just to make sure we get as many questions as possible. I want to make a quick announcement. I've been asked by the Friends of Three Sisters. There's a blue postcards inviting you to please come out to the Saturday, October 7th at 10 a.m. at Centennial Park in Canmore for a gathering titled For the Love of Our Valley. Bring your kids, family, kids, and friends, and join us for just over an hour. Harvey Locke will be speaking. If you love wildlife, love our environment, and love our valley, you will want to attend. I'll also mention that, and thanks to the Rocky Mountain Outlook, the gentleman over there is live streaming this, which is, I think, it's kind of crazy and kind of cool. And so I suppose if you stand up and make a scene, you will be famous. So that's great. All right, so I wanted to explain just what's going on up the front of the room here. In essence, you know, we don't have like all these fancy tiers. The gentlemen, the folks at the back are sitting on 3 tables that are stacked up high. Please be careful. Those are the tall candidates. The less tall candidates are in the front. And I basically asked them to sit there at random. I'm going to introduce them. I'll invite you to please stand when I say your name, just so that there's some name recognition. If If you want to figure out who's who, I invite you to jot that information down or keep track of it by whatever means with your smartphone. But here they are, starting at the left. Esme Comfort. There's 16 of them. We don't have time for that. Please hold your applause until the end, and I'll because I want to honor these guys. So let's just do that in style. But I'll just ask you to stand and wave. Ed Russell. Jeff Hillstead. Mark Blackwood. John Borman. Jill Jameson. Jeff Laidlaw. Chris Dimitri. At the far end, Joanne McCallum. Karen Mara. Rob Seeley. Vi Sanford. James Loudon. Wes Christensen. Chad Friel. And Kim Chismosia. How'd I do, Kim? Chismosia? All right. Kim C. to her. I will say that I once stood with these guys, as mentioned. It's a big risk. It's a big personal risk to put yourself out there, to run as a candidate, to spend precious time, to spend precious money, and without knowing the outcome. I think they're doing it not out of self-interest necessarily. There's always a bit of agenda that we bring, of course, but they're doing it in a sense of service. They're doing it to help move us through the next 4 years. And I have nothing but respect for all of you, and thank you very much for running for council. Big hand. Thanks. There's all of you sitting and standing, and maybe that's cool, but there are 10 seats over there, and thanks for mentioning that, Alric. I invite you to migrate over there. We'll get going in a second here. So, without further ado, I'm going to invite, and there's no rhyme or reason to the order. We're just going to go, and one thing I haven't mentioned is that there's 14 candidates for council. There's 2 candidates for mayor. That's Ed Russell, say hi to Ed, and John Borman. And everyone else is running for 6 seats on council, as you folks know. All right, Mr. Timer, Mr. Blackwood, if we could please get that thing started. And I'll invite Esme Comfort to make some remarks for 2 minutes. Thanks, Esme.
I'll just talk loud. Okay. The green light on? Hello? Yes. So I've lived in Bow Valley since 1980. Started up at Pigeon Mountain at the old staff farm up there, the old school resort, along the Vermont. And in Canmore since 1983. I have 2 boys that are born and raised in Canmore. One of the best places I've been in the world to raise boys.
We're going to stop this. Can you hear in the back? Yeah, there's no. We're going to make this happen, and we'll start you off again. That's a green light. Jeff, let's make this happen. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Yeah. So candidates just speak. These are weird mics, quite frankly. You have to speak directly into it, not laterally, but directly into it, and nice and close. Spinning's allowed.
Eat the mark.
Joanna McCallum says, eat the mic. I think she's not off the mark. Okay, yeah. 2 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, Esme Comfort, 2 minutes of glory starting now.
Okay. So is that better? Yes. Okay. So I've lived in the Bow Valley since 1980 and in Canmore since 1983. We started out up at Pigeon Mountain at the defunct ski resort up there in the old Staffacom. It was paradise. Then we moved to Canmore. We raised 2 boys here. We ran a small retail business for 19 years, my husband and I. I served on school board for 3 terms, total of 9 years. If you want controversy and ad hominem attacks, that's a really good job. Recently retired, so I have more time to devote to town business. The town boards and committees I served on, and still some of them, that are most relevant to the environment are ERC, which is the Environmental Advisory Review Committee, Bow Valley Regional Housing, WildSmart, and Hummer when it was established, the Human Use Management Review. What's important for me in Canmore is the sense of community and how we all support each other, and that we are inclusive of families, retirees, elite athletes, armchair athletes, the whole works. And going forward, I'd like to see, I think there are strides we can take in waste management and in alternative energy. That's about it.
Candidates, I'm just going to ask you to pass the microphone and stand up and introduce yourself. We'll just keep it going. Thanks.
I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight. My name's Ed Russell, and I hope to be the next mayor of Canmore. I rewrote my speech tonight because, frankly, today is a very sad day for the environment. We lost the trees in the old daycare site today. It's progress. It's probably a good thing, but I'm sad. To me, it's a sad thing. Bear 148 left us today, apparently taken by a hunter legally on a hunt in British Columbia. There's some that say this is our fault. I don't have an answer, but it's sad. There's a bear on Three Sisters Drive today, and I was told yesterday, and when I got here, found out it's been a few days. What's in store for that bear? We can do better. We owe it to our community to respect our natural environment, to educate our friends and neighbors, and frankly, to punish those who resist learning. It's a better way to do this, folks. Please vote Ed Russell for mayor on October 16th.
Housing, parking, growth, and development. Growth will happen whether we like it or not. However, it should not be a detriment to Canmore, its citizens, or its wildlife. How do we effectively move forward? I have what I think is several worthwhile ideas that I'll bring some positive changes, and I will be happy to share with over the next few weeks. I believe that I can make a difference on council as I'm a very good listener. I promise to listen to every person, every group, not just the loudest, not just the richest. And if I don't know the answer, I will do my research and find out the answer. Some people save an entire lifetime to come and visit what we take as fortunate enough to call home. I think it's really important to find a way to encourage young couples and families not only to have the desire to build a life here, but to have a realistic plan in place so that we can ensure future success for young people and achieve this reality. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for being here. My name's John Borelman. I want to thank you for being here to care about our environment, as I do. I believe that my record through 10 years on town council shows that I have a good understanding of the importance of the environmental issues, and I've reflected my support for these issues, as well as my commitment to being a steward of the environment. However, it is one thing for us to say that we are stewards of the environment, but it's a very different thing to actually live up to that ideal. As a community and as individuals, we're not doing as well as we should. We are not demonstrating real commitment to foster a healthy coexistence within our valley. This requires much more than simply being opposed to new development. To be genuine in our stewardship, we have to adjust how we think and how we live within the environment. The real work before us now is to shift the culture to one that reflects real understanding for the vision of coexistence, and to make personal commitments to move within the landscape as we say we should. We have to understand why we can't play wherever we want, and recognize that the presence of wildlife within our neighborhoods can result in failure, as happened quite recently in the town of Banff. We need to understand that coexistence is not only about keeping humans out of the wildlife corridors, but actively discouraging the wildlife from straying into our neighborhoods. To be stewards of this valley, we have to commit to respecting the intent of the protected areas and perhaps to enforce this intent. I am committed to working with you and with council to show the leadership required to achieve success in our shared vision if you will give me your support on October the 16th. Thank you.
Nice one.
Went right to the buzzer. Hi, everybody. My name's Jill Jameson. Thanks for coming tonight. Thanks for having me here. Little bit about me, new face. I was born and raised in Ancaster, Ontario, near the Hammer, and moved out west in '79. And then I spent a good deal amount of my time working and then playing and leading in the outdoors, working with youth at risk and connecting them to the better part of themselves through connecting in the outdoors. And then working for many years, 17 years, managing Camp Chief Hector, the east end of the valley here, and working in outdoor education, environmental stewardship, and again, community development with children. Moved to town 2 years ago with my husband Doug, who's an educator, amongst many other things, and our twin 11-year-olds. And I've also had a great opportunity of volunteering with the Banff Canmore Community Foundation for 5 years, and ended up leading the granting committee. And that really allowed me to look a little deeper and learn a lot more about what's going on in the valley through a volunteer lens, through understanding our capacities and incredible resources and some of the significant challenges. So I'm pretty keen about affordable housing, maintaining a livable community, want to maintain diversity across all sectors, quite interested in supporting small local business to create that diversity and vibrancy. And of course, environmental stewardship feels like that's been a big through line for me in my education and my work. And it's great to be here, and I look forward to hearing more of what you have to say. Thanks.
Good evening. Wow, it works. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jeff Laidlaw. I moved to the Bow Valley about 4 years ago from Ontario. I spent about 20 years in Ontario in a place called King Township, where I was involved in the local politics and a councillor. And for 3 years, I tried very hard to avoid getting involved in the politics here, but then started to see some of the things that I perceived as happening and thought that I wanted to speak up. Mayor 148 kind of threw me today, so did Larch Park, to be quite honest. But I think we're not doing the job we need to be doing. We're really not protecting our wildlife as we should. We're not protecting our environment as we should. In Ontario, every time I looked at an environmental report, the word mitigation was used. Anytime I see that word in any political report, I just know we're doing wrong. I think we have to do a lot better, and that's what I want to try and do. Thank you.
Good job. Hello, my name's Chris Dimitri, and I'm running for council, and I thank you for coming, because I know it means a lot to us to know that it means a lot to you, and I thank you, Gareth, for putting this together to give us the opportunity to speak. I've lived in Canmore now 32 years. I've had a great life here. This town's given me a business. It's given me a wife that I met here with some great kids. I've really taken advantage of this valley. I've fished, I've hiked, I've biked, I've camped. I've used this valley, but I haven't abused it. And I think that's what we have to keep in mind. It's our valley to use, but we can't abuse it. We have to take care of it, or else we won't have it. And then what's the point of even being here? We might as well just move and wreck another town. So I think we can do it. If we work together and we use common sense and we use creative ideas, I don't see any reason why we can't keep this Bow Valley beautiful. Thank you. Do you want to just take this one? There you go.
Yeah, we'll use that one. Thanks. That's test 1, 2.
Eat the mic. No. 7 years and I still get nervous doing this. So my name is Joanna McCallum and I'm running for council because I care deeply about the future of our town. In the last 2 terms, I've been a vocal advocate for principles that support themes of livability, environmental sustainability, and fiscal responsibility. My vision of Canmore is one that is diverse, progressive, and vibrant. A great place to work, live, and build a life. I am supportive of policies that continue to move us thoughtfully forward as a community. Examples are the continued development of income-appropriate seniors, family, and workforce housing, smart development, economic diversification, growth and transportation initiatives such as transit, pedestrian, and cycling, and addressing climate adaptation through projects like our long-term flood mitigation. Yet somewhere between the protection of corridors and the recycling depot is a place where our other environmental topics desperately need to be explored. Use of our corridors, efficient land use, living with wildlife, our human use management review implementation, appropriate outdoor recreation, and how our built form can have a direct impact on the environment and our wildlife movement. These are subjects that fall under the topic of environmental sustainability and that I am on the record of supporting. I look forward to sharing my perspective on the future of our community over the coming weeks. There will be many opportunities for citizens to get to know the candidates and understand their vision for our town. I invite you to share with me your thoughtful questions and statements, and I provide suggestions and ideas as to how we can build together a Canmore for everyone. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Karen Mara. I've been in the Valley for 47 years, 42 of it in Canmore. I came from Banff previously. I graduated high school from here. I married my high school sweetheart, Phil, here. I became part of a family business, worked in it for 25 years, so I do understand the challenges of small business. I understand the challenges of housing for employees. I look out in the audience and I see kids that I saw come into our stores, babies, and now they're growing up, and I'm so glad that they're able to be in our community, and that's what I look forward to, helping people stay in the community, our young families, because I myself have 2 children, Adam and Ryan, who have now extending their family, so I have grandchildren in the Valley, so I have deep roots, and I would like to keep Canmore viable and an environment steward so that we have future generations that can enjoy what we have here and what everyone came here for, the natural beauty of our beautiful diamond in the mountains. Thank you.
I'm Rob Seeley, and I'm running for Canmore Town Council. Thank you all for being here tonight, and I wish we could fill the council gallery like this. It's really exciting. You should come out a little more. I've lived in Canmore for 27 years, actively volunteering and participating on community boards and working for groups for 25 of those. Contributing on committees and boards provides me important community insight and connection. The experience of serving 4 years on Canmore Town Council, having the opportunity to learn much, which will enable me to increase my deliverables for a second term if successful. I own and operate my own small business, the TELUS phone stores in Canmore and Banff, and I've done that for 24 years, which has been a long, successful run that gives me the flexibility and time available needed, including to serve on council and town committees. I've invested in Canmore to make informed and educated decisions. I believe in the visioning process and that we have a very good opportunity here in Canmore. As a sensitive and important wildlife habitat, important steps must be taken to protect and preserve this asset. If elected, I will work constructively with the town of Canmore's environmental constituency to protect the environment and maintain a quality of life while embracing a strong sense of community. On October 16th, please support me. Thank you.
Well, good evening. My name is Vi Sanford, and I've been a full-time resident in Canmore since 1981 when I moved here with my husband. We raised our 3 children here, and I've served on Canmore Town Council for the past 5 years. Prior to that, I was on the Canadian Rockies I was a trustee for the board of the Canadian Rockies Public School Division. During my term on council, Canmore has undertaken a number of environmental initiatives. We succeeded in passing a new municipal development plan with a special section number 4, environmental stewardship. A beyond curbside recycling program was introduced into neighborhoods to divert household waste from landfill. A materials recycling facility was built near the wastewater treatment plant to sort the recyclables and direct them to appropriate markets. Elevation Place was completed, a silver LEED certified building that incorporates a number of sustainability features such as solar energy, recycled pool water to flush toilets, and ground source cooling. In 2014, the town of Canmore funded a human use management review examining how we relate to wildlands around us, including human use wildlife in wildlife corridors and habitat patches. Recommendations were made and actions are now being considered for implementation. Our Environmental Advisory Review Committee has initiated a number of sustainability programs, including a climate change adaptation plan, a wildlife attractant program, and household solar incentives. WildSmart updates and educates citizens on issues regarding wildlife. The Biosphere Institute is an independent agency, hosts worm composting workshops to get citizens started on organic waste diversion projects at home. I consider the environment in all decisions I make as a councillor. I would like to continue to serve you, our community, for the next 4 years, and I bring experience, commitment, and respect to my role on council. On October 16th, please vote Vi Sanford.
Good evening. It's really hot in here. I'm just going to say that. We should probably open the door.
With a few folk, and they think it's just fine, James.
Oh, really?
But, Alric, would you mind just opening it? Just thanks a lot.
Well, this is my 4th time running for council. I don't know if it's me or the voters, but one of us is terribly stubborn. Huh? I'm a former municipal campground manager. I've been your employee in the past. I'm a longtime environmentalist. I guess you might call me a radical environmentalist. But I am prepared to work with just about anybody on this council to protect this valley. And let's have ourselves a good night tonight.
Good evening. My name is Wes Christensen, and most of you would recognize me from either the U-Haul business or the fact that I've been involved in retail here in Banff Canmore for about 10 years. One of the reasons I'm running for council is as I was doing the U-Haul, I would see families leaving here, 15 families a month, and I'm tired of seeing them leave. I'd like to do something to stop the exodus. So I'd like to think that we could make Canmore affordable again. I've got some ideas on how we can approach these, and I look forward to working with council. When I was growing up, my father taught me a couple of different things. He said, if you want to do something, put on a pair of gloves, go to work, do what you can do. So I'm prepared to work with the council and the mayor to try and make these things happen. Basically, I think we need an affordable Canmore. There are people out there, lower income, people with disabilities, that can't afford to stay here. So that's one of my concerns. I'd like to think that we're trying to respect the wildlife corridors. That's something we're probably going to have to work on. And how do we educate the public? Because signs don't seem to work. Put a sign up, everybody says, it doesn't apply to me. So I don't know, educating, or we may have to look at some form of enforcement. But on the 16th of October, I'd ask for your support. I'm prepared to put on a pair of gloves, go to work, and work for you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Chad Friel. I moved to Canmore in 2013, originally from Regina, but prior to moving here I was actually living in Lake Louise and Jasper, Alberta. Currently I'm a small business owner. I'm a massage therapist, personal trainer, and yoga instructor. I started up my business with a friend. We're both co-owners, Temple Therapeutics. Started up 2 years ago. Things are going really well, and I've realized that there's a lot of small businesses in town. And I think we can all work together as opposed to using the word competition. We've got a lot of people coming from Calgary, tourists obviously. And I think that, well, my number one goal with my platform is to build a strong community. And I think coming together as a community is very important. I also believe in economic diversification. So not just focusing on only tourism, but, well, we're going to have tourism no matter what. People are going to come. But I think thinking outside the box and coming up with other ideas, other ways to expand Canmore in a healthy way. Obviously, I want to preserve wildlife. Everyone's talking about the wildlife corridors. So I think in order to do that, we're going to have development no matter what, but to slow things down and to consciously develop parts of Canmore that can be developed, and then leaving parts that can't be developed alone. A little bit of my community involvement. I've volunteered with the Bow Valley Mentor Program, which is similar to a Big Brother program, which I really enjoy. I've taught chair yoga in the adult day program to seniors. And then I've been involved at the World Cup Biathlon, which was quite fun, seeing all those professional skiers from around the world. Oh, I'm done. Thanks, that took a lot longer than I thought.
Hello, I'm Kim Chismazia, or Kim C, if that's easier. I just wanted to say what a beautiful last few days we've had. I'm filled with gratitude to live in such a spectacular place. At the same time, I'm saddened by the death of Bear 148. I'm running for council because I have 2 young children, and they remind me of my responsibility to contribute, to be involved, and to take action. I do this for them, for their friends, and for us, for the future. The 3 big issues for me in this election are 1, affordability. I believe the Canmore Community Housing Corporation, along with its PAH program, needs to be relooked at in depth. 2 is governance and the role of council to be open to all points of view, to err on the side of transparency, and to keep administration as well as itself accountable. And the 3rd is environmental stewardship. Canmore has a unique and important environment. It's surrounded by national and provincial parks. It's home to internationally significant and threatened wildlife. We face huge pressure from proposed development and climate change. I believe we have a responsibility to be the best possible steward of this landscape and its wildlife, and that we should make decisions on everything from development to waste disposal with this in mind. Thank you, and vote Kim C on October 16th.
All right, if you just joined us, or if you're just warming up to this notion, there's still around 10 sheets, right, you guys, over there? 6, we're down to 6, so if you want to go sit down, by all means, go sit down. So we're going to move on. And there's a couple there, thanks you guys. So, but they don't want to sit, like, it's some kind of new kind of yoga thing that they're doing. I'm not sure, but anyway. Laura, make a move. All right, she's doing it. Big hand for Laura Hunt. Okay, so we're going to do questions out of a hat. So there were 19 questions. These folks have seen them. If you visited candidatequestions.me, you've seen them too. I want to say this about the questions. Specifically, like they'll each of these folks, in essence, I'll walk along here. They'll reach up, they'll grab a question, they will read the question, and they will have 1 minute, according to Mr. Blackwood, to answer the question. Those questions, it need not be the last time those questions are ever used, because quite frankly, some of them are kind of cool. And you can use them when you get a chance to ask your question and ask some candidate that hasn't had a chance to answer that question. You can use them by email. You can use them with a phone call. You can use them when some of these folks come to your door. So or you can just riff off them, of course, and generate your own questions. So here's how it's going to go. Well, I just told you how it's going to go. Any questions about how it's going to go? All right, and the way we're going to do this is, so just reach in. You only have a second to read the question if you've read it before, and you've got an answer for it. Just read the number in case somebody's following along, and we'll do our same old thing. We'll start over here. Yes, we do want the mic. Grab the mic. Grab a question. Thanks, Esme. Please stand up. Candidates, read the question and give your answer. You have 1 minute to read your answer, or to speak your answer.
Okay. Biggest obstacle for wildlife. In the valley, and the behavior of humans. To fix it, we'll never fix it. We'll never fix it 100%. We can do a lot more, I think, and continue in some of the efforts that are working with WildSmart, with IRC, with close examination of development, and do reasonable and sustainable development, and that's it.
Thanks, Esme. Please stand and read the question.
Question number 14. Today, Three Sisters Mountain Village has approval to develop about 2,500 residential and 1,500 commercial units on their property, including a resort center. Would you support halting any more approvals for this developer until they have developed most of their commercial units in order to create a more robust commercial tax base? Sorry, large hands are at a disadvantage. I think we have to get the brakes on this. They've got a right to develop, but if we continue to just strictly put more houses in, we'll shove a store in eventually, or whatever the case, that's not acceptable. We wind up with empty houses, driving 10 miles to come down and buy a quart of milk. They've got to step up to the plate. We've got to bring them to the plate if they're not willing to do so. So I would support halting or delaying their plans until such time as it becomes viable and beneficial for Canmore as well as for Three Sisters Mountain Village.
That's a long one.
Nice. Are we all right?
Number 6. In 2016, the town of Canmore spent $346,000 on transport and disposal of our residential waste, trucking almost 400 kilometers to a landfill near Camrose. Over a third of this waste stream consists of food scraps, which could be kept out of the landfill. And organic waste and landfill account for a large portion of methane emissions, a potent greenhouse gas. Would you support a residential organics collection program in the next budget and set clear targets to divert food scraps from the landfill? If so, what would you do with organic waste? I would support a residential organics collection program. Currently, the town is looking into 2 different options in dealing with organic waste, either a container collection system or food dispenser, such as carburetors. However, neither option has had a comprehensive valuation yet. They're in the process of doing that. So at this time, the costs are unknown, and therefore it's not really possible to budget. Once the evaluation is complete, town administration will be able to provide a recommendation for council to consider. And at that time, council will have a better idea of the costs involved and whether the program is viable and can be brought forward into the next budget.
Holy, I didn't bring my glasses.
Please stand up. Thanks.
I don't have my glasses on. There we go. Your term on council may see you consider the future of the last developable land around Canmore. In 2005, over 1,000 locals took part in a visiting process for Canmore to create Mining the Future. Would you support a similar process to give council an updated community-supported vision that would help guide into difficult decisions ahead? If so, would you wait until that process was finished before approving any large-scale development? Question 15. I have an answer, but I don't remember it. I believe the current information is extremely important. Yes, another visioning process may be required in that term. However, current development approvals must be recognized. Developers have made concessions, spent money, and completed their due diligence. That's it, thanks.
By the Human Use Management Review and other planning reports. So these projects that are developed are in response to such direction and will inform the amount of funding that is appropriate. So that when a project comes forward, the cost to proceed with that project is identified for council, and at that time we'll decide whether that's a project, a budget that we can work within in concert with all of our other budget requirements. But yes, that's something we've been doing. We'll continue to do that.
One moment. He said I could put it back if it was not to my liking.
I said nothing of the kind, Jill Jamieson.
And yet that's not the case. One moment.
And I want to apologize to the candidates for not having tables and glasses, and we're a little bit low tech in the senior center at the health and thanks for putting up.
We'll get to line dancing in a second. Okay. In 2002, the town told the province in Three Sisters Mountain Village that it would not grant any development approvals based on the provincially aligned corridors unless the wildlife corridors were based on the best science available. If you were a member of council, would you be prepared to take that approach if the province approved inadequate wildlife corridors? So I tried to do a little homework on this, and I could not find the exact wording in an AFP that specifically outlines the expectation between the town and the Three Sisters Mountain Village. It might have been easier if it was clearly there. But I am interested in the best science supporting our development decisions, certainly going forward. And we want to work with all parties to develop relationships that allow us to move forward. We are in a position now that we need to collaborate, we need to hear each other and move forward. So I would definitely want to hear best practices and the best science that's available, and I want to maintain relationships with folks so that we can make the best decisions that we can. Thanks.
Oh, God. Number 10, Canmore has an anti-idling bylaw for vehicles not used for emergency or public service, but many people still leave their vehicles idling in winter for heating and summer for air conditioning. There's no better low-hanging fruit to reduce unnecessary CO2 emissions than simply shutting your idling engine off. How will you enforce the anti-idling bylaw? Wow. There's not an easy answer for this one, honestly. To hire the bylaw officers to go out and spend the money we have to spend for bylaw officers to have them come and try and find you and give you a ticket is very expensive, very timely, and frankly, the fines would have to be so high it'd be ridiculous. I think we would actually be better to look at warnings, notices, making people aware, public education, making sure that everybody knew that idling was not a good idea. It's a moral suasion question. Enforcing bylaws is often very challenging and very expensive, and you can't, it doesn't make sense to do it, unfortunately. Having said that, if the people want them enforced and they want to pay the tickets, we'll be happy to go out and do it.
Okay, I have question number 13. Would you support a regional planning initiative to address the cumulative effects of development, including significant new developments such as those proposed in Three Sisters and Silvertip? If so, how would you move this initiative forward? Okay, well, to address that question, the first thing we'd have to address is who forms this committee. And obviously, if we are going to be putting together any sort of report, it has to be based on, I think, a fair and just representation of what we are trying to accomplish. I mean, if you just, let's say you let somebody say, okay, you're going to be doing this strictly for the wildlife, and the developer's going to say, well, no, I'm not going to go with that. And if the developers say, well, I'm going to make sure that I've got my hand in this so we get what we want. So I think in order for these studies to work is that what we have to do is we have to get a good group of people together, a good well-balanced group, do it once, do it right, and then move forward. So yes, I do support it, but I support it that it's done right and fair to all parties involved. And I think once it is done, we stick with it when we respect it. So I think we can do that, and I do support it if it's done properly.
Oh my God, hello. This isn't the one I dreamt I was going to get last night, thank God.
Do you want to stand? Do you want to stand?
It's a great way to make friends. Number 8. In 2016, the Alberta government rolled out the Alberta Climate Leadership Plan and the federal government announced the Pan-Canadian Climate Plan. Both make money available for municipalities to implement green projects for infrastructure, transit, schools, and hospitals. How do you plan to tap into these funds? Well, we've already tapped into these funds. We have a brand new set of, sounds like it's headlights, a large installation of solar panels that have gone into the Civic Center, which was provided to us partially through a grant through the Climate Leadership Plan. In addition to that, the monies that we've received to fund the green trip funding for our bus fleet at regional transit, they're all mostly funded through, the most recent years, funded through the Climate Leadership Plan and the green trip funding. And there was another one.
Eat the mic.
That's all I got. I'm sorry. I know there's more, but I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Thanks, John. Sure.
This is question number 17. Would you support a more participatory budgeting process that better engages Canmore citizens? If so, how would you go about it? I already am running on the platform of listening to the community. I really want to hear where you want your tax dollars spent, where the priorities are. We can have a look at the budget. I know administration and council will do their best to represent everybody, but I do want input. So it would be the public consultation process and respect each other in what we all want and then what benefits all our residents. Thank you.
Air quality and climate change. Climate change is widely described as the mother of all environmental issues. Municipalities have some distinct strategic opportunities to combat climate change. What do you propose Canmore Council do over the next 4 years to deal with climate change? Continue infrastructure work with Steep Creek mitigation strategies and finish the Cougar Creek debris retention structure. Continue to work with Bow River studies and mitigation where possible. Continue regional partnerships for emergency preparedness and fire suppression strategies. Also, the Green Build initiatives go towards that. But climate change is real, and we've had some extreme events, and I expect them to continue. So I'm glad that we're taking such a good approach to this. Thank you.
I've got a little issue with version control. I don't have the same numbers, but I have the same questions. My question is, do you support the development of either a casino or a gondola on Mount Lady Macdonald? Please explain your reasoning. Well, it sounds like a simple answer, doesn't it? But as a councillor, I can't declare whether or not I would support such amenities proposed in an area redevelopment plan. Currently, there is an ASP in place for Silvertip, which must be respected. But it does not include these amenities. An ARP would be required, and it would have to be evaluated by council, and all things would need to be considered with an open mind to make that decision. So if it seems like an easy answer, this council has had many of these sorts of issues come forward in the last 5 years. There is not an easy answer because you have to consider the whole equation, and at this point in time, this is not on the table, and it all depends on if it ever comes on the table or if it ever comes with a whole set of differences. You would have to evaluate them based on the whole package. So I can't answer yes or no to that question.
Gareth, I want your hat. Okay, after we're done.
You can't look?
I would answer no to the last question. What would you do to promote the increased use of alternative energies by Canmore citizens? I set an example. I've had solar panels on the roof of my old cabin back east since 2004. I sold my vehicle and I ride a mountain bike. I walk. We have to start doing this stuff on our own and stop expecting the government to do it for us. So, yeah, I would say set an example. Walk the walk, don't just talk the talk.
Good evening. I got question 11. Canmore streets are getting busier every year. How will you encourage more walking, biking, and bike commuting? And will you implement more complete streets that include segregated walking and bike lanes? Okay. First of all, I have to explain I'm not really going to be out there on the bike because I have a bit of a mobility issue. But what they've done downtown to try and encourage everybody to get out and bike and walk and use it more, to try and utilize it more. I'm okay with downtown, but I really don't like what they've done to Bow Valley Trail. I think that needs to be worked on a whole lot better. And I mean, we've got a bike lane just beside the railroad. Why are we putting another lane on the highway and then putting pedestrians and cyclists at risk? I think that's something we got to look at. Thank you.
Question number 9. Would you ban the use of plastic grocery bags and mandate the use of reusable bags? I was just chatting with a friend about this today. Kind of not an easy answer as well. I myself sometimes forget my reusable garbage bags. I think it's great that they brought in a cost for them. Maybe that cost could rise a little bit. As far as grocery shopping, when you're bringing tourists in, they're probably not all going to bring bags, so it is tough to do. Maybe eventually. I think educating our tourists when they do come in and letting them know other things where we can save on the environment is that you don't need to buy bottled water in this town. So things like that are going to help a lot. Some of the best water in the world right here. And then as far as the grocery bags, if they don't buy as much water, they'll probably use less grocery bags.
The question is question 18. Development is often proposed as the only way for a municipality to stay economically healthy. If we are not growing, we are dying. What are your thoughts on this? Well, first, I think this question is misleading. I think the question is development meaning growth, expansion, getting bigger, getting more footprint, if we can agree on that. I think the idea that the only way to be healthy is to grow larger or to grow out is preposterous.
I can mention that.
30 seconds. I don't know how much time I have, so maybe I'll just leave it. I'll give you 30 more seconds. We need to be focusing on different dimensions of growth, not just one dimension of growth, the outward dimension and the larger footprint dimension. And what I mean by that is really economic diversification, especially clean businesses and bringing more business into Canmore.
And thank you. And I wanted that question is actually, if I have the question correctly, it was answered by you in written form on CanmoreCommons.com. right, as part of your process. And so on behalf of that group, I'll just mention that they have 6 questions that they'll be rolling out on a bi-weekly basis between now and the election, and visit canmorecommons.com to see how these fine folk answer those specific questions that are asked by that group. Okay, so let's move on. This is the stand-up, sit-down segment. It's relatively simple. Candidates will stand if you agree with these statements, and so here's the instructions. I wrote it down just to get it right. And please stand if you agree with the following statements. Remain seated if you do not agree with the statement. We ask you that you do this in silence, candidates. You will each be given no more than 30 seconds at the end of this exercise if you wish to elaborate on why you chose to stand or sit for any given question. Okay, so questions of clarification.
What about the middle road? Or the... No. Okay.
If you want to crouch, that's your prerogative.
I'm just thinking there's like a halfway.
Yes. So, and that's what the 30, excellent question. That's what the 30 seconds are for if you want to explain why you chose to hang out in the half sitting, half standing, or whatever, however you want to play that. But that's the escape valve, and I'm sorry we don't have more time for you. But right after this, we're going to get to questions from these folk. So let's do this. So let's give this a try. So question number 1. Statement number 1. There's no questions. If these fine people elected you to town council, that would make you happy. Please stand if you agree with that statement. And please sit. There's one in every crowd. They got hard, folks, they get harder, I'm just saying. As a member of council, I would support a casino at the base of Mount Lady MacDonald. Please stand if you agree with this statement. Yeah, as a member of council, I would support putting a gondola on Mount Lady MacDonald. Please stand if you agree with this statement. Honest, they do get harder. Not a lot harder, but the next one's, well, we'll see. As a member of council, I would support a program that kept our food scraps out of the landfill. Please stand if you agree with this statement. We'll just take a moment. Vi is preparing her remarks, and which you'll get to in a sec, and the photograph's been taken. Cool. Please sit. Climate change is real and caused by humans, and municipalities have a role to play when it comes to combating climate change. Please stand if you agree with this statement. All right, please, thanks for sitting down again. Many Canmore citizens believe that our quality of life relies on things like clean air and healthy wildlife habitat, and that to maintain that quality of life, we need to keep Canmore's population as low as possible. Please stand if you agree with that statement. Okay, and just... Okay, don't be pirouetting on me here. Just stand and keep standing for the photograph, James. Just stand. If you want to stand for that one, that's cool. Just stand, Ed, standing. Okay, good. We got the. Let the record stand, as it were. Thanks, and you can have your 30 seconds. 2 more questions. Hold on a sec. Thank you. As a member of council, I would support banning the use of plastic grocery bags in Canmore stores. Please stand if you agree with this statement. Just up. If you're a yes, then stand up. If you're agreeing with it, thank you. All right. Chris has bad knees. He can't do the half crouch. That's fine. Okay. There's the half crouch. Okay, that's cool. You people are killing me here. Okay. Please sit. Please sit. This is your last question. Canmore Council should support a regional planning initiative to address the cumulative effects of development, including significant new developments, such as those proposed in Three Sisters and Silvertip. Please stand if you agree with this statement. You people got it? Captured forever? Cool. Yeah. I'll read the last question, and we'll just do the whole thing over again, pardon me. But you know what? Standing up or sitting down is good for you. So here we go. Canmore Council should support a regional planning initiative to address the cumulative effects of development, including significant new developments such as those proposed in Three Sisters and Silvertip. Please stand if you agree with this statement. Thanks for asking me to repeat that. Please stand if that's the way you sit. Okay, folks, thanks. Alrighty, so at this juncture, we have the microphone, which Kim has here, just beside, and Chris. And so, if any of you, and we're just going to mix it up slightly, starting in the back with Chris, if you want to address, for 30 seconds, if you want to address anything that you just did or didn't do, as standing or not sitting, go for it. If you want to abstain, that's fine, and it allows these folks more time to answer questions. It's your call. Ken will do the 30 seconds. Anything to say?
I don't quite understand what we're doing.
Oh, basically, yeah. If you want to explain to these people why you stood or sat, go for it. You got 30 seconds.
Which one?
Anyone.
Any of them, you got 30 seconds.
Can't we just do one? I mean, okay,
you can absolutely just do one, or you can do none. Up to you.
Okay, well, I guess I'll go with this one because I kind of was the plastic bag thing. Okay, I think we've had a good point made there, but the quicker we just make it just no, then is no, and we don't have them anymore. Because as long as we keep making excuses, well, the tourists, or I forgot my bag, we're just going to keep using them. So if we just get rid of them, they're gone, and we'll figure it out. And then we can even have a billboard say there are no plastic bags in Canmore. You might have heard about this. Bring your own. Thanks.
Jeff Laidlaw, anything to add? Anything to say?
Thank you. Just quickly on the plastic bags, because I did stay seated. Providing we all agree that we're going to use paper bags, I'm fine. But we have to make sure that Safeway and Save-On and our grocery stores and all our stores agree that that's going to work and that everybody's happy with that. Then we can go ahead. I'm good for that. But otherwise, I can't just arbitrarily say, yes, no, we use no plastic bags anymore. That's all.
Two things. Plastic bags. This has turned into an interesting topic. I didn't jump up right away. Well, I had two things. Because that needs to be in conversation with the businesses that provide it, and they're already de-incentivizing use of plastic bags, which is fantastic. So I didn't jump up, but that needs to be something we work towards. Secondly, cumulative effects. That's regional partnerships. That's a very large, significant undertaking. We already have some excellent resources on that, but I love the concept. Thank you.
On that last question, Gareth, there were a lot of parameters that weren't defined in your question, so it's impossible to say yes or no. I'd have to understand the parameters. It's certainly not out of the question to get together with other municipal decision makers in the valley. That's from Lake Louise all the way through to Stony Nakota. That's a complicated process. I would want to understand the parameters and how this is going to work. But we have good relationships already throughout the valley with our regional partners, and I'm interested in carrying on with those.
I did not stand for the plastic bags because I don't think it's feasible that people would actually show up with their own bag.
And to continue the trend on plastic bags, I didn't stand up either because I forget my reusable bags sometimes. It's nice to have the plastic bags because I use them for my bathroom trash. And if we don't have those, you'll use a heavier plastic bag in your bathroom, which isn't any better for the environment. But also, I'm fine with paper bags if that's the way to go. It's just, I think the stores have been doing a good job, and they should continue to champion to eliminate the use of plastic bags. But we need some option for the people that don't have reusable bags with them.
Could you please read back the question on the population growth?
That'd be my pleasure. Many Canmore citizens believe that our quality of life relies on things like clean air and healthy wildlife habitat, and that to maintain that quality of life, we need to keep Canmore's population as low as possible. Please stand if you agree with this statement.
I agree with the keeping the population as low as possible, but as one of the other folks specified, we do have to respect the rights of the property owners and landowners who have got approvals, who have come through the process. That's a tricky question that possibly doesn't do us any favors. As far as regional planning, Canmore issues should be decided by Canmore Council.
So on the regional planning, question from the cumulative review, I think that that's, yes, time-consuming, expensive, and very necessary. It's a very difficult thing to understand, and it could take a very long time. But we need to be mindful of it and be working on it. The plastic bags, I'm not going to talk about the plastic bags. What was the other thing you talked about? Population. I'd like to know who gets to decide who stays and who goes.
That's what I was going to say. So clearly somebody doesn't do all the grocery shopping in their house, because I spend more time there than I'd like to. And I would like to say that we as a community do a really good job of showing up with our reusable bags. I see more reusable bags than I don't. And I would also like to point out that the retailers in our community do a great job of making us thoughtful of our choice. Do you need a bag for this? I hear that all the time, and that's really awesome. Plastic bags, I go through my plastic bags until I hit my Mara's bag, and then it's time to go to the store.
Okay, that was an adorable moment, am I right? Wow. Please stand, Karen.
I have to speak to the grocery bag issue. I was hoping I would get that.
Carol Picard's got a flat.
I could still have requests for Mara's grocery bags. If anyone wants one, I have one. I think that we will, yes, people will still continue to use them, tourists, there's different excuses. Maybe it's the quality of bags so that we can reuse if we forget our reusable bags, and the quality of them so we can reuse them. We used to have people bring them back to the store, and we would reuse them with our customers, the same bag. Sorry.
So the cumulative effect question, I think I'd need to know more about that. Of course, it's important. A lot of the work has been done. And if it's about a new major development, I would need to know what impact that would have. But certainly working cooperatively on that would make some sense. But that's why I never stood, because I need more information. It could be quite expensive.
Do I support diverting organics from the landfill? Absolutely. We have a few initiatives underway right now. We have a garburator study happening. You can also worm compost at home. It's a project that you can uptake with the Biosphere Institute. They'll get you started, and it's quite amazing what volume of organics you can divert in your home worm composter. And I've been doing it since February of 2016, and it's amazing that my garbage is very light because I'm not putting all that moisture in. So I would definitely do it.
Back to the casino on our mountain, which seems so obvious. I'm not here to pick a fight with developer. Wait a minute. No, I am here to pick a fight with developers. That is going too far. It's out of control. They've lost touch with reality. I'm sorry, we don't need that. As opposed for population cap, Banff has one. I think we can consider having one as well. So that's my explanations.
Good evening. I'd like to speak out against plastic bags for a couple of reasons. First of all, when they hit the landfill, it takes about 100 years to break them down. Secondly, we're living in Canmore. It's a very pretty community. Yet you could drive down Mountain Avenue past Tim Hortons, you've got plastic bags and everything hanging in the trees. And I mean, if people want to take pictures of that and send it home, it's not very pretty. Thank you.
On the population growth question, the Earth is the planet's growing in population, so I think it's inevitable that we're going to grow. But what we need to do is have positive population growth. We have the opportunity to have a diversified growth and economy. So I think it's important to have a slow, smart building initiative, and not just build second homes, but perhaps instead of condos and conference centers, maybe focus on our talents and build maybe schools for post-secondary education.
I'd like to clarify the last question, which was around the regional planning initiative. I want to be clear that I support a study that looks at the cumulative effects of all proposed developments in infrastructure in and around Canmore, as my understanding is that this has been asked for by esteemed scientists. This study would include things like proper hydrological impact studies. For example, do we have enough water to support this kind of growth that we might be looking at?
Okay, let's do question and answer from the public. Here's how it's going to roll. While I'm speaking, Jeff, if you don't mind just bringing the microphone to the full extent, as close as you can get. And if you have a chance to put out that one kind of, just people don't step over the good old cable. That's where we're at. That's kind of what this is about. Happy to do that. So, yeah. So here's what I'd like to have happen. So I'm going to name the candidates. When you come up and ask your question, I'm going to suggest a couple of ground rules to make sure it goes swimmingly and to try and get your question asked, because otherwise, so we're going to try and make it tick over as fast as possible. As you stand at the mic to ask your question, look behind you and just notice the people that are standing behind you and reflect on the fact that things have to happen promptly. My favorite kind, I'll kind of moderate. I'd like you to give your name, please, and I'll name these fine folks too in a second. I'd like you, as you address yourself and ask a question, when you start talking, I would love it if it started with, my question is to the following candidate, and then you name them, and then the next sentence is your question. I'd like you to restrict the number of candidates you ask your question. The perfect one is just one, but you could do up to 3. Can we try that out, please? I'm going to challenge you to try and do that as much as possible so that we get as many questions as possible. And then once you've heard from these folk, I'm going to ask you to kind of sit with that, mull it over, not interrogate it. These folks are willing to talk to members of the audience right here after the forum's over. They're willing to talk to you by email or phone afterwards, and that's a dialogue that you need to make happen as a responsible voter, I suppose. Let me name these folks again. Just stand up and wave. Esme Comfort, Ed Russell, Jeff Hillstead, Mark Blackwood, John Borman, Jill Jamieson, Jeff Laidlaw, Chris Dimitri. On the far side, Joanne McCallum, Karen Mara. Control yourself in the back row there. Sorry about that. Just don't sue me. That's all I'm asking. Next to Karen Mara, did you stand up? Okay, Rob Seeley, Vi Sanford, James Loudon, Wes Christensen, Chad Friel, and Kim Chismasia. Kim C. All right. Would anyone like to care to ask a question? Because the mic is yours.
Is it on? Can I do a stand-up, sit-down question?
Could I stop you with a question? Yeah, so please state your name, and then if you just play it as you want it. Tracy.
Okay. My name is Tracy Henderson, and I have a question I'd like to address to everyone, and I want those at the end in favor to stand up. And that is, our municipal development plan certainly encourages sequential development, so building from current built-up areas outward, the concept of contiguous growth. For the Three Sisters land, this would allow any negative impacts on the wildlife corridor caused by development closest to town to be mitigated through subsequent development approvals granted for their lands further eastward. Would you please stand up if you would be in favor, to the best of your ability, in compelling Three Sisters to develop their lands in this contiguous manner?
Let the record show that Dr. Henderson just took a photograph.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alan Hobson. My question is for candidate Ed Russell. Ed, could you please just extrapolate and explain a little bit more about your thoughts on the cumulative effects study concept? I kind of missed the response there. Thank you.
Check, 1, 2. Try that.
No. Yep, there we go. The cumulative effects. I think that it's a bit of an awkward question, because I believe that when we refer specifically to Silvertip and Three Sisters, I don't want to see any planning decisions made by the MD of Bighorn or someone else. That's our planning decision. Cumulative effects. Well, when we get to that stage, we've got a development, then I'd like to see some cooperation, but for now, I would really be loath to have Banff weighing in on how we make our planning decision.
Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Hey guys, Everett Martin. Hello everyone. Great job, by the way. So just to set the scene, we've seen recently a group who's concerned about a certain issue, in this case a dog park, send lawyers proactively to council, presumably out of suspicion that that's a necessary part of having their voice heard in the way processes are going. Also, I have knowledge of the process that's happened with Y to Y's public consultation about their proposed special levy, $50 to $80. And that feedback I heard about that process was that they didn't present a plan. They just asked people if they were okay spending the money, and that they would come up with a plan later. I'm a big fan of Y to Y, by the way, so that's just what I heard. So, with that in mind, I would actually sit down, stand up is perfect for this. Please stand up if you believe that the current consultative or decision-making processes in Canmore are deeply flawed.
All right, please state your name. Thanks for that. That was a very long preamble. I'm going to ask you guys to make them nice and tight and concise. Please address, if you can, please say who this question is for, and then, without a preamble, if possible, hit them with a question.
I'm going to do a stand-up, sit-down, sorry. My name's Karen Antrobus. My question, I'm so impressed that you guys are managing to handle all these questions, by the way. Do you believe that the current rhythm of how municipal decisions are made, the study, the consultation, et cetera, is adequate for Canmore to meet what you think Canmore should do for Canada's commitment to Paris? Or do you think Canmore needs to do something radically stronger, different from the kind of slow, gentle moving in the direction of one decision or another, asking everybody 10 years later we do something? If you think Canmore needs to do something bigger and more radical and stronger than what we're currently doing.
And I think, for context, Karen, the commitment to Paris is a reference to a climate change agreement?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're asking, I think what you're asking these folks is, would they be willing to go above and beyond what is just called for within existing conventions on the climate change question?
No. Do you think Canmore needs to do something in order to help our piece to meet the Canadian commitment to Paris that's bigger than what we're doing by gently moving along with this agreement or that agreement? Do you think we need to step up and do something much bigger, or are you happy with this kind of...
Oh my God. All right, take a good look. So here's the thing, people. I'm going to ask the following. If you're going to do a stand-up, sit-down, which these people hate, by the way, and I get it, because it's never that simple, I'm going to ask you to try not to do the stand-up, sit-down. Try and make it a question. Address a specific group of up to 3 councillors. Give that a try, please.
Perfect. My name is Mark LeBlanc. I represent 4Cs, so we're the Canadian Cannabis Compassion Community, and I'm here today to represent the voice of a few hundred of our members. And really, I want to know, future mayors, Mr. Borrowman, Mr. Russell, what are you going to do to make sure that we have a locally based, locally operated, and compassionate cannabis community instead of an industry? So keeping in mind that my rights as a patient supersedes laws, and every single day members of our community are having their rights trampled on. So I'd like to know, what are you willing to do to make sure that our rights as patients is represented and respected?
So,
Mr. Russell, Mr. Borrowman.
Yeah, so that was good. Hit them with a concise, succinct question.
Mr. Russell, do you think that our community could thrive being consciously operated by small-time community members? So do you feel like we should have a community or a big corporate influence-backed dispensary? So would we repeat the same thing in Canmore as has happened in Banff?
I'm not conversant with Banff. I did just come back from a conference where we got a virtual tour of the Aurora facility at Leduc. Since that time, I've had a conversation with 2 individual pharmacists, one who did put out some very negative thoughts regarding smoking cannabis, the other one who said that alternative delivery methods are something that we really have to address. Once this becomes legal, right now it isn't legal, but it's coming. Once this comes, we have to open the doors, and small town industry is probably where we need to be. Local is better if we can facilitate it.
I really appreciate you're open-minded.
Thanks for the question, and I'm taking it as specifically directed towards the legalization of marijuana and whether we would permit the sale of it in this town. Is that where you're going?
No, if you're faced with a chance to have a farmer that's going to grow his own apples and keep his apples and sell them for $10 an apple versus the farmer as us who's willing to pick our apples and share with the community, are you going to let a corporate influence like, say, Canna Clinic in Banff step in, commercialize and commodify my medicine? Or would you be willing to work with a nonprofit or for-impact social venture as ours to try to establish a community instead of an enterprise?
We're always quite prepared to work with nonprofits in all sorts of endeavors in the Bow Valley and Canmore and Banff. We've certainly been supporting the community garden and the other local initiatives that are addressing healthy food supply. Is that what you're looking for? 'Cause you're still not.
I guess I'm just looking to get people's opinions. Are we going to be more comfortable, or people like myself? I choose cannabis, medicinally speaking, so I can avoid opioids. I've had several knee surgeries. I'm trying to see if there's more compassion in future council. I feel like...
Yeah.
Okay, take it away, John.
Thank you. So to that point, yes, we've been working with several people that are proposing to sell cannabis here in Canmore, and we've been engaged with them. The primary answer has always been, I've met with 3 or 4 groups myself. First of all, they have to meet with the RCMP and understand what the current legislation is. But we've already, through planning department, approved a permit for a center which won't be distributing marijuana until that's legal, but they'll be setting up a clinic. I don't know when, but we've had that discussion. So yes, there's a lot of compassion from this council for that issue.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is...
Thanks. Just pull it towards you. Just nice work.
Sorry. Good evening. My name is Tricia Botch, and my question is for Kim C. In a letter that was submitted by Jessica Carpat to the town of Canmore in March concerning amendments to the resort center, the suggestion was made that if Three Sisters was to provide PAH, there would be the possible consideration or the possible negotiation of increasing the GDA for Three Sisters.
And the PAH and GVA stand for what?
GDA, the gross developable area. In exchange, currently we don't have the mandate, the legal mandate to require developers to produce PAH or any other form of non-market housing.
PAH meaning publicly affordable housing?
No, perpetually affordable housing.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, how would you address that situation if that came up again? And would you be willing to fight for legislation on a provincial level to bring more balance to the community development in those new areas for affordable housing so that we're not just looking at infill and development to solve the solution?
Okay, Tricia, thank you for your question. I just want to make sure I understand it. You're asking, you might have to just back up to the first part of it to make sure.
I think that's fair because that was very, for people standing in line, short is good, concise is good, clear is good. So,
Okay, it is a confusing issue. Number one, we don't have the ability to mandate affordable housing in Three Sisters. And the statement was made in a letter to the town in March by Jessica Carpat suggesting that there was a possibility of negotiating the provision of PAH based on the increase of gross developable area for Three Sisters. Are you willing to fight on behalf of people in this town to get legislation to bring more balance to the provision of affordable housing without those types of negotiations?
Okay, so just to be clear, so what you're saying is that there was a suggestion that Three Sisters might put PAH into Three Sisters if they could develop more land.
That's right, because that's the negotiation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would I advocate for more clear rules or a way to actually require there to be affordable housing in Three Sisters without those kinds of
Without those kinds of demands being put onto us, because that's pretty, we
Yes,
have
I
a
think
20%.
my understanding was in our town, and maybe this wasn't written anywhere, but my understanding is we decided at some level that we wanted affordable housing in every new development. I thought we decided that a long time ago, and we haven't gotten that. That's how I see it. So if that's at all possible, that would be something that I would advocate for.
I want to commend you on wrestling with a difficult question. Thanks, Trish. And Jim.
My name is Jim Tissot, and first I'd like to thank each of you for having the courage and commitment to stand for office. Thank you very much. My question is for our two mayoral candidates, and it does take a bit of background. I'll be quick as I can. Both environmental assessments and independent third-party reviews of those assessments are cornerstones of Canmore's environmental policy. Yet on June 30th of 2015, administration presented terms of reference that effectively exempted Three Sisters from both of these critical requirements. Though requirements remained on the books as part of Canmore's municipal development plan for 16 months following June 30th, and they are enshrined in the new municipal development plan. But to my knowledge, this exemption remained a bit of a secret until it was revealed in local news in October of 2016. My two questions are these. Do you support the need for an environmental assessment and for third-party review for major projects? And secondly, could you tell us if or how Council held administration accountable for failing to require these two, the environmental assessment and the third-party review from Three Sisters, and failed to advise Council of these exemptions when you considered the terms of reference for Three Sisters in June of 2015?
I'll invite John to go first, and if you need to clarify anything, by all means.
There is no exemption, so I'm not too sure what you mean. Every developer has to live up to the terms of the municipal development plan and subsequent area structure plans and other plans that are required, other approvals that are required. In regards to your dissatisfaction with how our administration has brought issues forward, I don't share that concern. Council went through a fulsome process for a long time, and we ended up with an MDP that protects those very things that you're concerned about. So I would say that in that regards, we've done very well.
I have to copy some of the mayor's answer. I apologize. I'm not conversant with the exemptions you're talking about at that period. I would be happy to go back and look, because if I'm wrong, I'm going to look like awful foolish in retrospect, standing up here denying that I'm supposed to be aware. My apologies. Environmental impact it's a must. We have to. It's a must. It's got to be there, and the third-party reviews are even better because you just, there's always the accusation that you can find a scientist who'll tell you what you like. So with a third-party review, it's just critical, and it's an integral part.
I just refer you, both of you, to a letter that I sent to council on January 2nd of this year outlining this issue. I've not received a response to that letter yet. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
My name's Courtney, and I don't really know how to ask this question, but it comes to development.
Sorry, who's the question
it's for Jeff Hillstead. Sorry, I had all the names here. Jill Jameson and Vi Sanford. I'm looking for information for a development that had been proposed a while ago on childcare and development on there, and the new daycare and all of that stuff, and when it became, like, it got taken away, I think. And I just wanted to know where you guys stand on developing for the hopefully growing families in Canmore, and how to address that if it's possible. I'm not sure what my question is, I just kind of want to know about that. So,
and it's not an environment question, but we're going to be good with that for about 2 minutes.
In areas, they're going to have to tear down trees, I'm sure. To get that built.
So here's the thing. So I'm going to invite Vi
and growth,
to speak
population.
to that. And then if the other two want to mention how it affects your thoughts on that. But we're going to keep it quick because of the vagueness and because it's not pure environment, if that's okay. Go ahead, Vi.
Thank you for that question. I'm not sure I understand it, but is your reference to daycare about the daycare lands that have been redeveloped recently?
Yeah, there's some talk about a new daycare being built, and then it got squashed because of the developing. They couldn't find the land for it, or because of the environmental. And I was wondering if
I don't think that's a real issue. Not that I'm aware of. We have a daycare in Canmore that is a Canmore community daycare. We have private daycares in Canmore. We have a recently redeveloped piece of land called the Old Daycare Lands, which did not replace the daycare. The daycare was moved. And there is, in addressing your issue about young families, there is a perpetually affordable housing being proposed for the daycare lands to give those young families an opportunity to live and work and raise their children in the Bow Valley. So I think you might be confusing the terminology with something that is referring to a past experience, but those lands are currently being redeveloped.
So thank you. Thanks, Vi. I'm going to ask, here's what we're going to do with that. That was education. That was cool. By all means, and I love the fact that you asked 3 councillors. Jeff, a little bit more volume on mic number 3, please. So I love the fact you asked 3 councillors. That was awesome. And follow up with them later, and I'm going to just sort of move on if that's okay. Sir.
My name is Martin Mueller, and I know that saying to protect the environment and wildlife, especially protecting the wildlife, my question, is almost like a motherhood statement and can be lost later on when the duties of council come. How many of you, if elected, would commit to us as the population that elected you to be accountable by your voting record, publicly disclosed voting record, that you really fully support this whole concept of we will protect the wildlife of Canmore? Thank you.
So nice one, but what you didn't do is say,
sorry, that's a stand-up question. Please.
So make it a statement.
Yes.
Please make it a statement, and then say, please stand if you agree with the statement. Go.
Okay. So the statement I have is, please stand if you commit to being accountable to the voters to duly recognize wildlife, protection of wildlife in your voting as councillors as you go forward. Please take a picture of this. Thank you.
Please, go ahead.
My name is Paul Calra. My question is to the mayors, current mayor and the future mayor. 148, one of your Bow Valley daughter was shipped away because she came to Canmore. She was very safe in Banff, and she done more things in Banff than ever in Canmore. She was in Canmore boundaries, and she got punished for being here. What changes you going to make in future to not that happen again? Because she was just about to start her family, and now she is dead.
So I'm going to paraphrase. The question is regarding using 148 as an example. What changes would you make so that the same would not necessarily happen to another bear?
Yeah, because it happened in Canmore boundaries, and I think we should be more responsible and accountable and have a more remorse.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And that question underscores what I was saying earlier. We have to do better. The tragic end of Bear 148 is very sad. And our whole valley has been concerned and anxious about her and wanting to do the best thing we can. I can't speak for the decision that was made to relocate her. I understand the rationale behind that, and it's not my expertise in biology, but trying to move her out of this valley, I understand that decision. The fact that she inadvertently wandered into an area that allows grizzly bear hunting is very sad. If nothing else on the provincial scale, it underscores why the province of British Columbia should be following the lead of the province of Alberta. But I'll continue to be a strong advocate for changing the culture in our valley. We have to actually live the way we talk about.
This whole bear situation this summer it's just been tragic and somewhat weird in its own way. The poor bear wandered down. It came into our territory where we got an awful lot of people. Everyone standing out there wants to, everyone wanted to interact. Everybody wanted a piece of this bear, and everyone's worried about responsibility. Well, the Fish and Wildlife people, the guys in the green suits that you don't see much, that's their job. They direct wildlife on behalf of the province. They're the guys who should be directing us and saying, close down Quarry Lake, close down this trail. Do something. We take our lead from them. They're pros. They don't fool around. They move animals. They relocate it. The fact that this bear survived being relocated is fantastic because it's not a precise science. They're anesthetizing an animal that they can't weigh, can't take blood pressures. They moved her. They gave her a chance. Sadly, she wandered into BC. It's a legal hunting season. It's their last legal hunting season, I understand, but it wandered in. The bear wandered into a hunting season, paid the price. For us, we got to take direction. Listen to what the Fish and Wildlife people tell us. Don't question their judgment. They do it. That's what they do. Take their advice, make the program work better so that we can protect everything.
So just a reminder again that we have two mayoral candidates. We have 14 brilliant individuals who deserve a few questions peppering them. And I'm going to just encourage you guys, if you can do it, to engage some of these folks that are otherwise sitting and not interacting with you, and that's just not right. So let's see if we can change that up. And Eileen.
My name is Eileen Patterson, and I'm a former town councillor. I'd like to direct my question to Ed Russell. Ed, why are you running for mayor? And if you were elected, what do you hope to achieve?
Yes, that's just fine, Eileen. Let's. It's got to be in a minute. Can you just?
Okay, thank you for that nice, simple question. I think I can make a difference. I don't like where I've disagreed with a number of the decisions, and I found myself on the right side of the decision, albeit my colleagues in council saw a different view and they chose to follow it, and as a group, we followed that direction. I think I can make a difference. I've lived here way too long, haven't got any place to go, and I sure want to protect everything we have. Try and keep some quality of life, try and make it so we've all got a chance to stay here.
Thank you.
Thanks. Nicely done.
Hi, my name is Kathy. I work with small children and often with tourists. My question is actually for the mayor, sorry.
That's okay, Kathy.
Why were there no signs up this summer at Quarry Lake warning families from all over the world that they are in bear country even when they're sitting right by the lake, and that they need to have bear spray? I ended up making homemade signs and plastering them all over Quarry Lake because the town of Canmore didn't do it, and neither did Fish and Wildlife. And there were lots of families coming in from all over. If you went up to them and said, hey, do you know you're in bear country? They were, oh, really? We're in bear country?
That's a very good question, and I think we could do better with that. And we'll be asking administration to put in place a program to put in place better signage in all of our open spaces.
Thank you, and I think everyone would be really happy to have professional-looking signs, unlike the ones I was putting up this summer. All right.
Ed, would you like to address that as well?
I guess it's part of the whole situation, Kathy, that we've got work to do. We've got work to do. I can't speak to what administration's plans are. Council's role is to direct, have policy, and find out. It's probably worthy of a good revisit to find out why this fell down as it was all unfolding. You know, you tried your best. You went out and your signs, you can criticize them if you like, but your signs were good. They did a good function. But, you know, we have to educate everyone. We've got visitors coming here. This year, I believe, may prove to be the biggest year for visitation. And all these people, if we're not educating them, we're falling down on the job because, you know, perhaps we need a license to get in the gates or something. I don't have a full solution, but you're right. We skated on some really thin ice and we managed to survive.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Ruth Seffield, and I have a question for Esme Comfort and Rob Seeley. This is about the organics diversion. So the Town of Canmore Environmental Sustainability Action Plan, last revised in 2013, states that the Solid Waste Action Plan endorsed by Council in 2003, 10 years before, included a regional organics composting program as an initiative, but noted that no progress has been made. So apart from undertaking a study to determine the impacts of carburetor use on the wastewater treatment plant, can you explain why a comprehensive evaluation of the two main options, being carburetor or organics diversion through collection, has not been completed?
Thank you for the question. I don't know why it hasn't been completed, but I know it is top of mind, and we are moving forward with some studies, looking at the carburetor to see if that's practical. And composting here is a bit of a problem, so we're going to have to find a partner if we go that direction. But there is work being done, and I'm sorry that it's taken so long. It is important work.
What Rob said. But more to the point, there is a volunteer group that's very active in providing information to administration and moving forward with the composting. And that I very much appreciate. My favorite community initiatives are where the volunteers sort of create the momentum to push something forward, and then that pushes us to do something. So don't stop doing that. And I will commit to seeing where we can go with trying to get that diverted from the landfill. So thank you for your efforts.
Hi, my name is Ken Baroneski, and I wish I could ask more of you the same question, but I think I'm going to try to limit it just to the two mayor candidates. I know some of your platforms that some of you are going on is being fiscally responsible, and there's something that we haven't even addressed tonight is the taxation and where taxation dollars go. So here's the two-part question. To the two mayor candidates, where do you think there's a need to allocate more money towards of our money that we're paying taxes? And where do you think that we need to cut taxes? I mean, money being allocated towards.
That was a simple question, wasn't it? Firstly, when it comes to budget time, there's always a lot of very difficult decisions about where we can make cuts in the budget, because every cut will result in a service delivery, a change to service delivery. What was the first part of the question?
Where would you spend and where would you cut?
If you would like to get involved in the public budget debates, you'll understand that those issues much more clearly. And we have public budget meetings for 5 weeks, generally October, November. And all of those various decisions are run past council, and there's a lot of discussion and debate on it. And it's never simple. If you can share with me what service delivery you'd like to see reduced, then that's certainly an option. There was more in my mind.
That's okay, John.
Can I just say, you personally, without your council be involved, like what would you like to see more money being spent on? And where would you like to see less money being spent on? Just you personally.
Let's Ed, why don't you take that, and then we'll give it back to John, just to be with that clear little piece.
Personally, I was hoping for a Ferrari for myself, but I guess that's not coming. I'm not sure. I have to be honest. I'm not sure how to give you a great answer to that. I like recreation. I like conservation. I like parks. I like flower beds. I like roads. I drive. I'm a car enthusiast. Happily to tell you that. So I like the fact that budgets are developed in consultation with council and with input from all of the people. And I think that's the safest. You know, like I say, my ideas, my personal thing isn't what it's about. Council's a team. Council is supposed to be a team where we all get there. My one belief that I will commit with you is get a dollar's value for a dollar. We need to make sure that we're spending appropriately and not wasting money. And we need to make sure that what's out there is being well used, and also what's wanted. That's a big thing. I've spoken in my campaign materials of another visioning exercise, which I was taken to task by some for, but we've gotten into so many diverse and mixed interests in the community, everyone competing for a shrinking dollar. It's time we go back to the public and get the right answer rather than, you know, I would be, as mayor, as a councillor, you're a member of a team. You're not the guy that sets it all.
Thanks, Ed.
Just to the further part of your question, so I do want to remind people that this last year we initiated an online website place where people can go and help council make decisions on budget allocation. So you could actually go online and essentially decide for yourself which service should have more funding and which service should have left. Pardon me?
How about none of them? Have a biased survey.
Sure, fine.
So, okay, can I just intervene? That's a little out of order, and by all means, raise it with these folks afterwards. And the informal part starts right after Cindy and John have asked their question, and we invite you to. Cindy, go ahead.
But just to that point, the customer satisfaction survey we did, the resident satisfaction survey, showed that the highest percentage of Canmore residents feel they're getting good value for their taxes. More detail on the financial state of the town of Canmore. Actually, I have some detail in my ad that'll be out on Thursday in their Outlook. And if possible, I would like to put more funding into such things as housing, transit, and environmental protection.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you to all the candidates again for all your hard thinking tonight. I'm a member of CORE, which is the Canmore Organics Recycling Volunteer Group. I would like to ask John Borrowman, Kim C., and Joanna McCallum to answer the following. CORE has learned that the town of Canmore is eligible to apply for funding up to 80% of costs to start a pilot project for organics diversion, or sending our food scraps outside of Canmore, through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Would you be in support of the town applying for funding and for implementing an organics diversion pilot project?
Simple answer there is yes. There are other opportunities that we've been exploring for dealing with the organics. Energy from waste and such things. The primary hesitation around a neighborhood collection of organics, as you probably know, is the very high cost. Similar to when we implemented the recycling program in the neighborhoods, it's about $1.5 million for the equipment, and then an ongoing annual service cost to manage the program. But I'm certain that within this next 4 years, this next term of council, we'll see some comprehensive organic diversion program in place.
Joanne, I'll invite you to go next, please.
So pretty much what he said is definitely beyond the horizon. I'm loud. This is loud. Sorry.
I would like the answer to, would you be in support of a pilot project?
I would be definitely in support of investigating a pilot project for our community, ensuring that it was financially feasible and right-sized to our community.
Thank you.
And that would be for organics diversion?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Organics, that's what the question was with regards to, I assumed. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, just...
Anybody else want to be loud? No.
Thanks. I think you asked me to. So I just want to make sure I understand organics diversion. Does that just mean we're not getting they're not going in the landfill? Is there another definition? Because I guess when I went to your CORE meeting, I was really inspired when I asked, what's the best case scenario? What's the pie in the sky, right? And Avni explained that Farmer Christian has this, idea that we can compost all of our organic recycling here in Canmore and then use the outcome of that to reclaim the Scarron Grotto. And I don't know how much that would cost or how feasible that is, but I guess I really love that idea. I don't want to truck stuff all the way to Airdrie or wherever we're talking about. I mean, that'd be great, maybe in the interim, or I don't know. I just wonder if there's some better ideas or some different ideas.
Yeah, and we are in support of all kinds of ideas as well, and we definitely support any kind of organics diversion at this point. We've been waiting since 2005 when it was first brought up as a possibility. It's a long time that we've been waiting. So we're really feeling like it's time for the town to step up and actually put the money where your mouth is and do something forward thinking. So whether it is setting up a facility
Okay, Cindy.
nearby or
I think they get it.
sending it off to Airdrie, either way, yeah.
John, it's past 9. Do you guys want to hear John's question? Heck yes. We'll make it tight, and then we're going to call it a night. Sorry.
Hello, good evening. My name is John Geer. I've been in Canmore for 20 years. And I just have one simple question. Wildlife cameras proved clearly that our wildlife corridors, so-called wildlife corridors and green spaces are not functional in that sense. And I ask myself, why is that? my own personal experience, I see lots of dogs running around and people in the wildlife corridors. It seems to be a mindset in general for some people here in town that they have some special rights and they don't need to care about the laws and all that stuff. So my simple question is, what is the reason for not urging the province of Alberta to finally hire more fish and wildlife officers to law enforcement in our wildlife corridors? Why is that? And if you don't want to do that, what is the reason for that? That's all I have.
And because you didn't specify, I'm not going to allow you to ask the darn mayoral candidates, because name 2 candidates that you'd like them.
And Ed Russell? What's that?
Any other 2?
Any of the council? Jill?
Jill and?
Jill. And Joanne?
And repeat the question in a sentence very clearly.
Yeah. Would you support asking the province of Alberta?
Yes. Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank
We need
you.
more support from the provincial government to enforce our behavior, or our lack of good behavior, and when I mean our, I mean like the royal we, as to how we behave in our wildlife corridors. It is unacceptable. And it is to the point now where our wildlife do not understand that this is the space that we have allocated for them to wide open, beautiful berries and everything else, because we're too busy messing around in there. So we need to get out of the corridors. We need to get people to enforce us getting out of those corridors, to allow those animals to travel from habitat patch to habitat patch and thrive and be merry bears and merry cougars and all that stuff. Yes, yes, yes. And thank you for asking the question.
Jill.
Sorry, Jill.
No, not at all.
Okay. Is this on? Yes. Okie doke. Okay, wildlife corridors, if I understand correctly, are mandated by our provincial management. And so we need to work together on a couple of things. They likely have some budgetary issues, I'm imagining. And perhaps this year we became a little closer to a pinch point. I know watching Leanne's film was really educational and for me, and seeing the amount of off-leash usage and dogs running around. So I think that was incredible for 2 things, showing us all the things that we are doing right in the Valley, all the really innovative efforts that are being made with all our partners in provincial side and federal staff and Fish and Wildlife, and educating us about maybe we have a little bit of sense of entitlement to those areas and we need to get that information out to folks. And so that's the carrot, education. We're so lucky to be here. And the stick, I guess, would be putting a little more dollars into conservation officer support out there and bylaw.
Can I just point out something, Gareth? The provincial government just spent a hefty little punk of money on a beautiful ad that we've just maybe all seen online called it's the new Ready to Breathe ad. I don't know if anybody has seen it. It's the new tourism ad. It's beautiful. And 95% of that ad is our wild spaces. It's the Rocky Mountains. And the provincial government is through these ads inviting the world to come and enjoy our wild spaces, but not providing any education or enforcement to deal with what's happening in those wild spaces. And so it's really important. We spend hundreds of millions of dollars in taxation to Edmonton, and we need some backsheesh, man. Like, we need to get some enforcement happening. And that's my shtick, sorry.
All right, at this stage, I need to say, we're done. It's a wrap. Wait a second. There's one thing you need to do before you walk out of here, people. One is any help that you can